I know that it's been a really long time since I've uploaded a video, and for that I can only apologise. Life got in the way, as it ultimately does for most of us, and if you've been looking at the update videos that I've put up, you'll know what was going on and that I had personal problems that couldn't really be helped. But anyway, here we are, back at it with the right device. And one of the things that I was asked a lot about is how to create conflict within your novels. So we all know that the way to a great story is to include some conflict and some stakes within it. And I don't mean like stakes, well, vampire stakes I suppose you have in my books, and I don't mean stakes that you eat. Without conflict, your novel will not only be boring, it will have nothing to really hook your reader, but it'll also break one of my golden rules, and that is to make the story and characters relatable no matter the genre or the setting. Dramatic conflict in a story is the writer's bread and butter. Without it, our writing is flabby, flat, and totally unappealing, like a really bad loaf of bread. Readers want to engage with your characters and to relate to them. They want to feel like they have something in common with your characters, to either be able to imagine themselves as the main character or to relate to them to someone they know. If they can't do this, then they will quickly lose interest. We create conflict in our stories because that is exactly what happens in everyday life. The world is full of conflict, and really there's no way to avoid it. It should be the same in your stories. I mean, okay, sure, you can write about the girl that lives like the perfect life, perfect family, great friends, no money worries, happily in love parents, who goes to school every day and she's popular and she's loved and she does well in all her classes and she comes home to this wonderful happy family. You can write that. Everything's wonderful, everything's perfect, but it's also perfectly boring. We know that no such thing exists in life. It's not real. There is no such thing as a perfect anything. Every perfect life has its problems. Every smiling mask will have cracks in it. You just have to look for them. There's also what we call a Mary Sue type character. That's one that will be great at everything and never have a worry in the world, or if they do happen to like conveniently fall into some trouble or some conflict, they'll be able to get themselves out of it with minimal trouble, being perfect at everything they try and always winning. Boring. So today I'm going to give you a brief description of the different types of conflict that you can include in your stories, and I'm going to take a more in-depth look at those over the next few videos. So this is going to be a series of videos on stakes. Now, as I said, I'm not talking vampire stakes here, though in my novels you probably are. Now, this is pretty much a given. In order for your characters to win, they actually have to have something to lose. And this often comes in the form of stakes. Some of the most common stakes included are the character standing to lose something or someone, and opposite this, what do they stand to gain? What are they risking to obtain their goal? Is the negativity actually negative enough? Are the consequences for their actions? These are the things that you have to ask yourself. You've got the main plot conflict. Main plot conflict is the whole point of your story. That's the thing that your story is moving towards and the whole reason for the story taking place. That doesn't mean to say that the main plot conflict will be the only conflict in the story, but it's the most obvious and the most important one. Micro conflict is a term that is sometimes used to refer to like smaller conflicts and situations that arise within the story. They may or may not affect your overall plot or your overall plot conflict, but they could just be there as an irritation or just to break up the story. Bye, Seffi. Or as a way to move the story along and to follow the main plot. Either way, these are great to use, and honestly, I can't actually think of any stories that I've read that haven't had at least one minor conflict alongside the main plot. Character conflict is the next thing. Now, this includes what's sometimes called a man versus man conflict. There is a snuggle my baby girl. There's a number of characters, usually the protagonist and the antagonist, having some kind of conflict, be that a falling out, a difference of opinion, or working against each other in the pursuit of a goal. Now, internal conflict. This is where your character is driven by some kind of inner turmoil, or, you guessed it, conflict. This can take on many forms, and it can stem from like their beliefs, their experiences, their emotions, or their moods. External struggles are just as important as the inner ones to your character. These can include outside forces that are working against your characters, or maybe even physical struggles. Maybe they're disabled or have got some kind of illness or something that they need to get over. Surroundings conflict. Now this can include things like nature, i.e. like a storm or an earthquake or something like that, technology and the problems that it can cause, society and even their place in it or how society treats them, or the society they live in, like the judgment and the beliefs of the society and the expectations of that society. Misunderstanding conflict. Now this is a good one. That sounds weird, but it makes sense. It includes things such as misunderstandings between characters, judgment against your character's own mistakes, and ones that come from them misunderstanding something or someone. Time limits. A time limit in a story adds instant conflict that can be carried on throughout the entire story as slow burning but nonetheless important element of your plot. Indeed, if it's done right, it can actually be the major conflict in your story. Morals. Morals, either too many of them or lack thereof, can be a major contributor to creating conflict. Morals are the things that moderate our behaviour, our beliefs and the way we think. We know what it's like in everyday life when the morals of those around us don't seem to match ours, when others are doing things that we deem unacceptable or wrong, but to them it's perfectly fine. What we find rude is funny to some people, and what we find to be right might be wrong to others. That's the things that you can explore in your conflict. Desire. When your characters want something or someone so badly, they can become very focused on it. They can be blinkered to anything or anyone else, bloody minded to the extreme. Desire can create internal conflict. Maybe your character feels bad because they don't want to desire this object or person. Maybe they feel bad because morally they know that they're going to have to do some pretty sketchy shit to get to their goal. Maybe they have to give up something very important to them in order to achieve this desire. The real secret when creating conflict is to follow the rule that often less is more. When we think of conflict, we often imagine like spectacular car chases and like fist fights and constant arguments between partners, bombs going off and murderers running rampant all over the place. And then we think of the emotions that go along with these events. The pain, the loss, the depression, the longing, the guilt. It's all part of a whole. And that's fine as a one-time major event. But it should not be the entirety of your conflict. If you focus entirely on the big things, you'll end up either burning out your readers. Think how sometimes when you're watching a soap opera or you talk to a friend, and think of the way that you feel about the constant drama, convoluted stories of a whole host of characters and information dumps and stuff going on. You get bored of hearing it. It's too much, too often, and you start to find it like unbelievable, and then you kind of tune out a little bit. Your readers will do the same thing with your book, and they will stop reading. The key to creating the perfect amount of conflict is down to your pacing and plotting, which I've done videos on before, so if you want you can go back and look at them. Other than that, it's keeping it believable, interesting and concise. Remember that not all conflict has to be negative. Anything that adds drama or shakes up a story is dramatic conflict. Good conflict can be the result of a positive action that changes the situation, like a character taking the plunge and changing job, a relationship, or their opinion on something. Not all stories have to have nasty, negative conflict in them. We may want to torture our characters, but we don't have to. Maybe you're just mean. Another thing is, don't rely on scenes that happen off stage, and then simply telling the reader about them. That's not the way to work. Remember the old saying, show don't tell? Well, this is particularly true in this instance. You really need to show conflict happening in the story, to engage your readers and to get them interested in the story. So now you know the basics. Of course, there are plenty more examples out there that if you want to look them up, you can find them. But these are the ones that I'll be focusing on in the coming videos. If there's anything else that you want me to cover, please let me know on social media or on here or anywhere else. But until next time, blessed be and happy writing.